Hi, Jerry Venn's Light at the Edge. Doing some studio stuff here today. I'm doing a personal project, photographing my grandfather's tools. And I thought I'd do a video talking about product photography. And that's basically what this is. We're doing small products and I talk about my lighting philosophy and style when I'm doing this kind of photography. It's very different than doing people. I basically tailor my lighting to my subject. So in this case, because we've got basically a hard subject, literally, with lots of detail, and I want to show that detail, I want a harder light source than I would for people. So size is important here. Notice this is my main light up here. It's a 9x24 Larson strip light. So it's quite a bit smaller than what I use on people. It's still a softbox, but it's a lot harder light than any of my boxes I'd use for portraits. I have a 7-foot octa-box for doing people portraits in the studio because soft is great for people. But here we want this nice hard crisp light. I want it very directional so I can skim it and actually feather it because I found a long time ago that when you're photographing hard like metal objects like this, that the specular highlights along the top can easily blow out if you point your light directly at the object. So my main light is not pointed directly at this shotgun here. It's feathered towards the camera to a big reflector. And then for accent lights, because I place objects on either side of the set, the other tools, I want highlights on those, nice crisp highlights. So I have much harder lights on these with I have a snooted light on this side over here and a gridded light over on this side over here to get some edge highlights on either side of the set to add some interest to it. So that's a very different lighting style than I would use for anything else I photograph, because I never photograph anything, any flash, naked flash directly at people, ever. There's always some kind of diffusion of some kind or softness, or you bounce it, or use indirect light, and so that's my basic philosophy. The only time flash is going to actually directly hit something in its naked form is like on these kickers on either side. So that's the beginning of that. What I'm going to do next is cut to the other side, and I'll show you how I set this up, how I meter it, which is really important because I meter this differently as well. And so you can see the details of how I'm going to accomplish the photography on this session. So we'll go to the next phase. Okay, now we've shifted the camera to the side of the set so you can see the really critical alignment of the main light relative to the subject. The main light is pointed mostly at my reflector, big silver reflector. I'm using silver because I want maximum reflectivity. Again, I want a harder reflection coming back. Normally I use a white reflector on people, silver on these metal objects. So basically the trailing edge of my main light is just going over the subject. We get the main light feathered, again, feathered towards the reflector. So it's going to skim these areas, give us a highlight here, hit that silver reflector and bounce back, and then fill in all the detail in the front as well. And you can see the kicker lights, how they're aimed. They're just skimming. This kicker light on this side is putting highlights on these tools over here and here. And this kicker here is putting the highlights on these tools over here and here. And some up in here as well. So it's actually a relatively simple setup. But the key is placement. This light, if digital is pretty sensitive on the highlights. And if you blow out the highlights, you're not going to get them back. So this is a typical setup for doing most products, in fact, feathering it away. So that takes care of that part. I think next we'll go on to how I'm metering this. Earlier I said I meter this lighting setup differently than I do any other kind. 99% of the time, I'm metering with my incident light meter pointed at the camera. Outside, inside, wherever I go, doing portraits at the camera. This lighting setup, however, is different. So I wanted to illustrate why I do this differently. In this situation, I'm pointing my incident light meter at the flash. The reason that is the main light is pointed towards the camera. So we're going to get a reading that will be very, very difficult to control the highlights if I metered at the camera. And I'll show you what I'm doing here. So we go to the flash, top of the receiver. Come on, there we go. Got F14. We go to the camera, only got F9. So if I set the camera to F9 and do that exposure, it's going to really overexpose the top of the shotgun, and we blow those highlights out. We'll never get them back. So that's the primary reason. And when I'm measuring my kickers on each side, I put the flash in the flat mode, measure each of those. I got F14, F16, which is fine because these are much darker wood over here. That'll give us some nice highlights on the edges. It'll actually bleed into here a little bit. I get the light skimming across these. So that's the basics of why I'm metering this way. The other critical aspect of this particular setup was the big silver reflector you saw in the previous take. That's right here. The main light is skimming over the shotgun, hitting this reflector, and bouncing back into the front of the shotgun. So that's your auxiliary main light, basically. So it's very critical, the angle of this reflector. So I did 50, 60 images, and I was always playing with the reflector and trying to get light in the receiver of the shotgun because it's very dark here. And that's what's great about Studio Flash is because we got modeling lights and everything, so I can actually see the reflection coming up here with the reflector, and what we see is what we get. So that worked out really good. So my exposure was F14. I'm operating at 200 ISO in the studio, which is my normal ISO, and it worked out really good. You'll see the images here come up in a little bit, and the final image, it turned out really nice. So that's it for today in this video. Do check out my website, lightattheedge.com. It's a training website where I offer everything from portfolio reviews to virtual apprenticeships. So check that out. In addition, I have my blog. It's been up for 3 years now. It comes out every Tuesday, like clockwork. And it's a great educational blog. It just shows random things from my career and problem solving techniques and all kinds of stuff. So check that out. That's goboist.com, GOBOIST.com. So Jerry Benz, Light at the Edge, and I'll see you next time.